In 1940, the world was in the grip of chaos. The Second World War had already begun, and the dark clouds of conflict were hanging over Europe, Asia, and soon to be over the United States. Nations were scrambling for power, alliances were shifting, and the horrors of war were just beginning to unfold. At this time, Steve Rogers, a young man from Brooklyn, New York, found himself at a crossroads in life. Despite his burning desire to serve his country, his frail body and weak constitution made him unfit for military service. Steve had always dreamed of being a soldier, ever since he was a child. Growing up in a rough neighborhood, he had witnessed firsthand the violence and injustice that plagued the streets. His father had died when he was very young, leaving his mother to raise him in the heart of the Great Depression. Steve had seen the best and worst of humanity, and he wanted nothing more than to fight for justice and to protect the innocent. However, every time he tried to enlist in the army, he was turned away. At just 5'4" and weighing barely 95 pounds, Steve's physical condition made him an unlikely candidate for the military. But Steve's determination was unbreakable. Despite being rejected by the military multiple times, he never lost hope. He saw the devastation happening around the world, and it filled him with a deep desire to contribute to the fight against tyranny. His resolve and unwavering sense of justice eventually caught the attention of a mysterious man. A man who would change the course of Steve's life forever was Dr. Abraham Erskine, a German-born scientist working for the United States government. Dr. Erskine had been secretly working on a top-secret project known as the Super Soldier Program. The program was designed to create the perfect soldier, someone who could fight the forces of evil with unparalleled strength, speed, and endurance. The project was a response to the growing threat of Nazi Germany, and its goal was to create a super soldier who could tip the balance of power in favor of the Allies. However, the program had faced many setbacks and failures. The serum that was meant to enhance the human body had only worked on a few test subjects with disastrous results. Most of the subjects died or were left horribly disfigured. Dr. Erskine was close to giving up when he saw something special in Steve Rogers, a raw determination and selflessness that made him the ideal candidate for the experiment. Steve's heart was filled with a mix of excitement and fear as he was brought into the secret laboratory. He knew that this experiment could either make him into the hero he had always dreamed of becoming, or it could destroy him. Dr. Erskine, however, saw something in Steve that no one else had. He saw a young man who wasn't seeking power or fame, but who wanted to fight for something greater than himself. Days of intense tests and preparation, Steve was injected with the serum. Almost immediately, his body began to undergo a radical transformation. His muscles grew, his height increased, and his strength surged beyond what any human could naturally possess. His heart raced as the serum coursed through his veins, pushing him beyond the limits of normal human endurance. When the process was complete, Steve stood before Dr. Erskine, a changed man. He had become a true super soldier, with the strength of 10 men and the agility of an athlete. But just as the experiment was nearing completion, disaster struck. A Nazi spy infiltrating the lab launched a deadly attack. In the chaos that followed, Dr. Erskine was shot and killed before he could destroy the formula, leaving Steve as the only successful result of the Super Soldier Program. The loss of Dr. Erskine was devastating for Steve, who had come to see the scientist as a father figure. Now, Steve was left to carry on the legacy of the super soldier with no one to guide him. The government, realizing the potential of Steve's newfound abilities, decided to use him as a symbol of hope for the American people. Rather than send him to the front lines of battle, they transformed him into a propaganda tool, a living symbol of American strength and determination. Steve was given a bright, colorful costume and a shield, which would become his trademark, and he was sent on missions to sell war bonds, boost morale, and act as a public figure. Cry from the battles he had imagined, but Steve understood the importance of inspiring the American public during such a dark time. However, Steve's true calling was on the battlefield. He couldn't stand idly by while the world burned. He wanted to fight, to use his new powers to defeat the forces of tyranny. After a series of public appearances, Steve finally had his chance. He was sent overseas to Europe, where Nazi forces were wreaking havoc. With his strength, agility, and unwavering sense of justice, Steve quickly proved himself in battle. He took on missions that no ordinary soldier could survive, and soon he became a hero to the troops on the front lines. It was during one of these missions that Steve Rogers, now known as Captain America, had his first encounter with Hydra, the Nazi organization led by the ruthless Red Skull. The Red Skull, a man whose hatred for America and its values matched Steve's own desire to protect them, became Captain America's primary nemesis. The Red Skull had his own version of the super soldier serum, and he used it to create a personal army of enhanced soldiers. The war between Captain America and the Red Skull would be one of the fiercest battles the world had ever seen. As the war raged on, Captain America became a symbol not just of physical strength, but of hope. He fought for the freedom of those who could not fight for themselves, and his reputation grew. He faced countless dangers and obstacles, but with each victory, his legend grew, which he used both as a weapon and a defense, became a symbol of resilience and courage. It was not just a tool for battle, it was a reminder that no matter how dark the world became, there was always a light that could pierce through the darkness. In the final days of the war, Captain America confronted the Red Skull in a battle that would determine the fate of the world. With the help of his allies, including the Howling Commandos and other Allied forces, Captain America was able to defeat the Red Skull and dismantle Hydra's operations. The war was far from over, but with the fall of the Red Skull, the Allies had gained a crucial victory. As the war came to an end, Captain America found himself at a crossroads once again. The world had changed, and so had he. The man who had once been a frail and rejected youth was now a hero, revered by many for his courage and sacrifice. Yet, Steve Rogers struggled with the loss of his former life. He had been a man out of time, living in a world that was no longer his own. In the years that followed, Captain America would face new challenges, both on the battlefield and in the heart of his own identity. But his legacy, the symbol of hope and strength he had created, would continue to inspire generations to come. Captain America's story was not just one of war and battle. It was a story of sacrifice, courage, and the unyielding belief that even one person, no matter how small, could make a difference. His journey was not only about defeating enemies, but about standing up for what was right, no matter the cost. Through the dark days of war, Captain America remained a beacon of hope, reminding the world that peace was worth fighting for, and that courage could overcome even the greatest of odds.